Alright, so tonight I'm going to go ahead and review this really cool fuel burning rock heater. I'm going to review the unit itself, and I'm going to test out a bunch of different fuels that it uses, and just for a comparison and to see what my recommendations are. First, I'm going to go ahead and open it and see how it all comes apart right off the bat. I can feel that the box feels very sturdy. It ships nicely. The foam protection on the inside is great. And I'm going to get everything unwrapped so we can see what we have here. This all looks great so far. It comes together easily. This crystal tube that you see on top is wonderful. It really radiates a lot of heat. It's not regular glass, and then you got your little snuffer for putting fires out from whatever fuel you're burning in this stainless steel cup. I'm going to go ahead and try out these different fuels. We got denatured alcohol, heat, which is a popular one I've seen people use. You got your stove bright, some rubbing alcohol, some ethanol fuel, and a couple other things I'm going to try. So let's go ahead and start off first by testing out this denatured alcohol and see what it's like. As you can see, I'm using this half cup measuring for my fuel. That way we're not waiting around all night long, because I know this stuff tends to burn for a while, and so I'm going to go with a half cup, even though this stainless steel container is pretty big. It looks to be like a cup and a half, 2 cups. So we'll just be burning a half cup at a time so that I can time each fuel. I really want to break down the pros and cons of burning these fuels, and one of the things is how long each fuel type will burn for, and the quality of the burn, etc. So I'm gonna figure all this stuff out for you guys. Right off the bat, I notice that the flame is very blue. It doesn't put out a lot of light, but it is beautiful, and it has a good look to it for a certain ambiance. But again, very blue, not a ton of light, is putting out a lot of heat, which is nice. And this is what I'm getting from the denatured alcohol. Interestingly, this blue flame did seem to get a little bigger and more full as everything seemed to heat up. It's a good looking flame. I'm gonna put together a chart of each fuel type along with how long it burns for and a price comparison near the end of this video, so stay tuned for all that information. The next fuel we're going to test is going to be this heat. So I'm going to pour it in here, and we'll see how this stuff burns. Okay, so right away I noticed that this flame is definitely a lot more orange and produces a lot more light. Again, the flame seems to start small when you first light it, and then once it starts to warm up, it really picks up. And this one, I really like the orange flame and the brightness that it puts out. It is flashier, and it does put out a lot of heat as well. So this is a really nice fuel. So despite the beautiful burn, it did leave a lot of soot accumulation on the crystal tube. The denatured alcohol didn't leave anything. So I'm going to see how it cleans up and what it takes for the cleanup on this. Is a little bit of glass cleaner. Okay, so it just wipes off really easy. No big deal. So if you do use heat, you are going to need to clean it. I guess that's a downside. On the positive side, it does clean off really easily. This next one I'm going to try is this ethanol fuel. Now there's different brands and different kinds of ethanol fuel you can get. This is a bioethanol fuel. It's also is in a gel form. And right away I noticed that the flame is kind of on the blue side, similar to the denatured alcohol. After giving it a chance to heat up and warm up a bit, it's kind of taking on a bluish and orangish, kind of almost like a cross between the denatured alcohol and the heat. It's a good looking flame. Next, I'm testing out this Stove Bright ambient fuel, and it's a gel form also, and I've also noticed it's a dark blue, so it's the first colored type of fuel. When I was squeezing the bottle to fill up this measuring cup, the bottle actually broke and got blue stains on my hands and on my sweater, so I don't like the blue dye that's in this stuff right off the bat. Started out a small blue flame and then gradually grew into this really nice looking flame. Big orange flame reminds me of the heat, and we'll see how it burns. The other ones didn't leave anything behind, but this gel is the first one to leave behind this crusty mess inside the stainless steel container. Next up, we're going to burn this just cheap rubbing alcohol. It's just 50% rubbing alcohol, so it probably won't burn as nice as a higher alcohol concentration. But this is just the cheap stuff that you can get from anywhere. And we're going to go ahead and see how this stuff burns. It didn't light as easily. I had to hold the flame down there a little longer than the other fuel types. But once it started going, it has a good looking fire. It's got a bright, flashy flame, and it seems to be burning very clean. Before we move on, I do want to run this little experiment. Right now I have a liquid fuel in here, denatured alcohol, and some of the fuels that we can use are gel types, which are safer in case of knocking this unit over while it's burning. And so right now I have a pure liquid fuel in here, and I'm going to go ahead and knock it over to see what that looks like. So I kicked it over, and instantly the flame spread out over at least 2 feet. It wasn't easy to kick over. It's a very stable unit, but it does show you that you need to take some precautions when utilizing the purely liquid gel fuels. So with each one of these units comes a bag of this ceramic wool. Now the purpose of this ceramic wool is to put it inside of these units within a stainless steel carrier. That way when you pour your liquid fuel on there, a spillage is contained. And so I'm going to go ahead and insert this ceramic wool into the stainless steel container, and then we're going to repeat the same tip over experiment. So you can see the ceramic fiber in there. Flame still looks the same. Let's go ahead and kick it over. And as you can see, I'm letting it sit there. Let me tip it up a little bit, and there you go. A little bit has dripped out, but it's localized and it's staying around. Like, you can just tip the unit back up, and the fire hasn't really spread anywhere. So it worked great. Now you don't need the crystal tube to burn it. It is kind of an organic flame without it, but adding it causes the flame to reach up higher for the oxygen. It makes for a more flashy, more brighter flame. And it also adds reflectivity to the back of the tube that just adds to the beauty of it all. The crystal tube also acts as a wind barrier, which is really nice on a breezy evening. Now the stainless steel container is about the same as big around as some of these heating units like camp heaters or cooking heaters you can pick up. Here I'm dumping out the ceramic fiber. It's still wet. I snuffed it out before it finished burning, but you hang on to that stuff, it will never go bad. I'm gonna put this camp heater in here just to see what it burns like and see what it looks like inside of this unit. So here it is burning without the crystal tube. It looks good. I'm gonna go ahead and put the tube on there and see how instantly it doubles the size of the flame. It's because it has to reach up for the air. It's got a nice reflection on the back of the glass, so it's got more light coming off of it and more heat radiating off of the crystal tube. That's infrared heat. So I definitely recommend using these candles with the crystal tube. I think it looks awesome. Just for the heck of it, I'm going to try out this regular old candle. I think it looks great. It's much safer. It stabilizes the candle and protects it from catching something on fire. It also just looks good. It radiates more light. I'm going to put the crystal tube over it, and instantly you have that reflection effect that just looks awesome. And of course it's going to be more heat efficient, radiating heat through that crystal tube. So moving on to my overall review, it's a great product. As far as the fuels go, I'm going to show you my thoughts on them. And you can use other fuels, but just be very careful. Don't use anything highly volatile like gasoline. Check it first, you know, test a small amount if you're not sure what it's like. Test a very tiny amount, and you can use all kinds of different things in this unit. Alright, so now to the list. So last place I put the Stove Brite stuff just because even though it did burn the longest amount of time, it did leave that crusty mess behind and it stained blue very badly. Second place, or second from the last, I put the ethanol because even though it had a clean burn and it burned for an hour and a half, it was one of the more expensive ones, and I don't think it's really that necessary, though there might be some better ethanol products on the market. Then above that, I placed heat. Even though it burned for longer than the ethanol and it was my favorite flame, it is kind of on the expensive side, and it leaves that residue of carbon buildup after each use. So overall, I gave that one a 7. And then denatured alcohol and the rubbing alcohol, I scored an 8. Even though they were the two that burned the fastest, 1 cup lasts approximately an hour for the rubbing alcohol, an hour 22 for the denatured alcohol. But despite that, their prices are low and they burn very clean. There's no kind of residue or buildup afterwards, so they're easy to find. And so overall, I would use most of these things again, but I think my favorite was the denatured alcohol or the rubbing alcohol. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any opinions about different products or your experiences with them, please feel free to share in the comments. If you're interested in purchasing one of these rock heaters for yourself or as a gift, please take a look at the link in the video description below. Have a good one.